This is the corrections for quiz 4. By the way, if you did poorly on quiz 4, please pay very close attention because you're going to take a quiz 5 early next week, and whatever grade you get on quiz 5 will wipe out any bad grades you got on quiz 1, 2, 3, or 4. But you won't be able to correct quiz 5 to pull up your grade. All right, we have to change things because it looks like we're not coming back to school at the end of the year. Okay, and again, instead of you turning in your corrections to me, you're going to prove to me that you learn from your corrections by taking a quiz 5. All right, I'll be explaining this to your parents, and hopefully they can explain it to you. Anyway, these are the right answers. Number 1 is 1 1/4. Number 2 is 5 5/6. Number 3 is 9 8/15. Number 4 is 7 37/40. Number 5 is 2/3. Number 6 is 2 3/4. Number 7 is 2 11/20. And number 8 is 4 3/8. And as you already know from taking the quiz, these problems deal with adding and subtracting fractions and mixed numerals, from the easiest of easy to the hardest of hard. And that's what we've learned so far since we've been separated from each other. So we're going to finish this up and move on to multiplying fractions. Anyway, number 1 says 7/8 plus 3/8, which, by the way, is the easiest type of addition there is, because number 1, all we're doing is adding fractions, not mixed numerals, and number 2, because I already have a common denominator. So all I have to do is add the numerators, keep the denominators same. 7 plus 3 is 10, and the 8 is still the denominator. So 7/8 and 3/8 is 10/8. Now that's my answer, but that answer is wrong. And the reason that answer is wrong is because it's improper. How do I know it's improper? The top is bigger than the bottom. How do I make it proper? I divide 8 into 10, goes 1 time, remainder 2, and my remainder is 1 2/8. And that's my answer, but that's wrong. And why is that wrong? Because it's not simplified. What goes into both 2 and 8? 2 does. 2 goes into 2 once, 2 goes into 8 4 times, and the right answer is 1 1/4. And again, I've been telling you since we started with fractions, all fractions must be proper, all fractions must be simplified. And if it's not proper and simplified, it's wrong. So this is the easiest of easy problems, but it can be gotten wrong if you don't make it proper and simplify. Number 2 says 3 1/12 plus 2 3/4. And again, I need to find a common denominator for 12 and 4. And again, to find a common denominator for 12 and 4, I list the 12 times table until I find something that 4 goes into evenly. That's pretty easy to find because 12 times 1 is 12 and 4 goes into 12 evenly. That is my common denominator, 12. Then I have to find the missing numerator, which requires me to divide and then multiply. 12 goes into 12 1 time, 1 times 1 is 1. 1/12 equals 1/12, and if 1/12 doesn't equal 1/12, we got a serious problem. Now 4 goes into 12 3 times, 3 times 3 is 9. So my answer is to add 1/12 and 9/12. Once again, I add my numerators, keep my denominator same. 1 and 9 is 10, the denominator stays 12. But don't forget to add the whole numbers. 3 and 2 is 5. So my answer is 5 10/12. However, that's wrong. I go, but Mr. Adu, it's proper. 10 is smaller than 12. You're right, it is proper. But it's not simplified. What goes into both 10 and 12? 2. 2 goes into 10 5 times. 2 goes into 12 6 times. And that's my right answer. 5 5/6. And once again, if it's not simplified, it is wrong. So you have to be very careful to make sure it's simplified. Number 3 says 6 7/10 plus 2 5/6. Again, the first thing I need to do is find a common denominator for 10 and 6. I list the 10 times table until I find something that 6 goes into evenly. 10 times 1 is 10, 6 does not go into that. 10 times 2 is 20, 6 does not go evenly into that. 10 times 3 is 30, ding, 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 6 does go into that. My common denominator is 30. And now that I have the right common denominator, I gotta find the missing numerator. 10 goes into 33 times, 3 times 7 is 21. 6 goes into 35 times, 5 times 5 is 25. Now I can add my numerators, keep my denominator the same. 21 and 25, I like to write them on the side so I don't accidentally add the denominator instead of the numerator. Most of you don't do this. I think it's a good idea to not make a careless mistake. 21 plus 25 is 46 over 30. 6 plus 2 is 8. And that's my answer, but again, it's wrong. Why is it wrong? It's improper. The top is bigger than the bottom. So I divide 30 into 46, goes once, remainder 16. So I get 1 and 16/30. But my answer can't be 1 and 16/30. It was 8 and 46/30. So 8 and 46/30 is not going to turn into 1 and 16/30. What I have to do is take the 1 here and add it to the 8 I already have, and the answer is 9 and 16/30. And you say, okay, that's my answer, but no, that's wrong. And you go, what's wrong with that? It's not simplified. What goes into 16 and 30? 2 does. 2 goes into 16 8 times, 2 goes into 30 15 times. And that's my right answer, 9 and 8/15. By the way, you might not know 2 goes into 30 in your head, and that means when in doubt, work it out. But I promise you, if you divide 2 into 30, it goes 1 time, remainder 1, 5 times, remainder 0. So my answer is 15 for my denominator. By the way, please notice in all 3 problems, 1, 2, and 3, you needed to simplify. Now, I don't think I did a good job of picking problems to give you though, because in all 3 problems, what you simplified by is 2. And that might give you the impression that that's all you need to check is 2. But the truth is, you already know how to simplify. You're supposed to check 2, 3, 5, 7, 11, and the numerator. And just because 2 doesn't go, doesn't mean it's simplified. But you did have to simplify all 3, and you had to make 2 out of the 3 of them proper. Otherwise, they're wrong. The last addition problem is 3 numbers, mixed numerals. It's 1 and 1/2, 3 and 5/8, and 2 and 4/5. And again, I need a common denominator for 2, 8, and 5. So I need to list the 8 times table until I find something that 2 and 5 both go into evenly. All 3 of them have to go into it evenly. Well, 8 times 1 is 8. 2 goes into that, but 5 doesn't. 8 times 2 is 16. 2 goes into that, but 5 doesn't. 8 times 3 is 24. 2 goes into that, but again, 5 doesn't. And you say, Mr. Dew, I'll never find anything. Yes, you will. Keep listing the 8 times table and you'll find something that all 3 go. But just don't get tired and stop. By the way, 8 times 4 is 32. 2 goes into that, but 5 doesn't. And 8 times 5 is 40. 2 goes into that because it's an even number. And guess what? 5 goes into it because it ends in a 0. And my common denominator is 40. And again, if you're willing to keep listing the times table and checking, you'll find a common denominator. In this case, it was 40. Now I got to find the missing numerator. 2 goes into 40 20 times. 20 times 1 is 20. 8 goes into 40 5 times. 5 times 5 is 25. And 5 goes into 40 8 times. 8 times 4 is 32. So now I got to add 20, 25, and 32. Again, I like to write this on the side. A lot of you just do it here while you're on the problem. I think it's safer here. This adds up to 7, and then 2 plus 2 is 4 plus 3 is 7. I get 77 over 40. And I add 1 plus 3 is 4 plus 2 is 6. And that's my answer, but again, it's wrong. What's wrong with it? It's improper. So you divide 40 into 77 goes once, remainder 37/40. But again, my answer can't be 1 and 37/40. It was 6 and 77/40. So this one has to be added to the 6 to give you 7 and 37/40. And again, make sure that's simplified, and this is the first one that is simplified, and that is your final answer. So again, to add fractions, you got 5 steps. Find the common denominator, find the missing numerator. Add the numerators and the whole number, keep the denominator the same. Make sure it's proper, make sure it's simplified. And out of the 4 problems, 3 of them had to be simplified. Out of the 4 problems, 3 of them had to be made proper. And some of you got them wrong because you didn't simplify them or you left them improper. Some of you got them wrong because you forgot about the whole numbers. And some of you got them wrong just because you made a careless mistake. You have to be careful, especially with the quiz number 5. Now, we go to subtracting. Number 5 is the easiest type of subtraction because you already have a common denominator. 5/6 minus 1/6 turns out to be 4/6. But that's not my answer. It's proper, but it's not simplified. What goes into 4 and 6? 2 does. 2 goes into 4 2 times, 2 goes into 6 3 times, so the right answer is 2/3. And again, very, very simple problem that you could get wrong if you don't make sure it's simplified. But the answer number 5 is 2/3. Number 6 says 4 and 11/12 minus 2 and 1/6. I need to find a common denominator for 12 and 6. List the 12 times table till you find something that 6 goes into evenly. That's pretty simple. 12 times 1 is 12. 6 goes into 12 evenly. That is your common denominator. By the way, please notice I bring my whole numbers over in subtraction. I didn't do that in addition. Why do I bring the whole numbers over? In case you have to borrow. And again, the main reason people get borrowing wrong is because when they borrow, they forget to cross out the whole number and make it one less. So if you bring the whole number over, you'll be more likely to remember to use it to borrow with. Maybe, maybe not. Anyway, 12 goes into 12 once. 1 times 11 is 11. 6 goes into 12 twice. 2 times 1 is 2. So now I can subtract. 11 minus 2 is 9/12. 4 minus 2 is 2. By the way, notice I did not have to borrow this time. You don't always have to borrow, but most of the ones I'm going to give you, you're going to have to borrow. But this one I didn't have to. But the problem is, this answer is wrong. And you might say, but Mr. Dew, it's not proper. 9 is smaller than 12. It is. And you say, and it's already simplified. It's not. And you go, but Mr. Dew, 2 doesn't go into 9. You're right. So you can't simplify by 2. But there is a number that goes into 9 evenly and 12 evenly. And you go, what is that? And I go, that's what you need to find out by checking not just 2, but 3, 5, 7, and 11. By the way, it turns out that the number that goes into both of them is 3. 3 goes into 9 3 times, 3 goes into 12 4 times, and the right answer is 2 3/4. And again, if it's not simplified, it's not correct. Now, the next problem says 9 3/10 minus 6 3/4. And again, I need a common denominator for 10 and 4. I list the 10 times table till I find something that 4 goes into evenly. 10 times 1 is 10. 4 does not go into that evenly. 10 times 2 is 20. 4 does go into that evenly. Ding, ding, ding. The common denominator is 20. And again, I bring the whole numbers over in case I have to borrow. 10 goes into 22. 2 times 3 is 6. 4 goes into 25 times. 5 times 3 is 15. Now I can subtract, but I can't take 15 away from 6, so I have to borrow. And again, to borrow, there are 2 things you must do to borrow with mixed numerals. The first thing you do is cross out the whole number and make it one less. You borrow from the 9, so you make it an 8. And then the second thing you do is you add the denominator plus the numerator to get the new numerator. 20 plus 6 gives you 26. Now you can subtract 26 minus 15. If you do it on the side to be safe, it comes out to be 11 20ths, and 8 minus 6 is 2. Again, is it proper? Yes. Is it simplified? Yes. Okay, by the way, this is the first one I think that was proper and simplified out of all 7 problems we've done so far. But it is my final answer. Most people who got this problem wrong got 11/12. And you say, how could they get it wrong if they got 11/12? They got 3 and 11/12, not 2 and 11/12. Anyone know why they would get 3 and 11/12? It's because they didn't cross out the 9 and make it 8. They did 9 minus 6 is 3. They forgot to borrow when they borrowed. If you're going to add the denominator to the numerator to get the new numerator, you must borrow from the 9 and make it 8, because that's the only way you can do that. But the right answer is 2 and 11/12. The last problem, for some people, looks real hard, but if you know the trick for it, it's real easy. The reason it looks real hard is because you're trying to take something away from nothing, and you can't take something away from nothing. You can add something plus nothing, but you can't take something away from nothing, so I need something here. And where am I going to get it from? The whole number 7. I borrow from the 7 and make it a 6. And here's the trick for when you have nothing here. You can write the one that you borrowed as any number over itself, because 1 over 1 equals 1, because 1 divided by 1 is 1. 2 over 2 equals 1, because 2 divided by 2 equals 1. But I don't want 1 over 1 or 2 over 2. I want 8 over 8. And how did I know I wanted 8 over 8? Because I want a common denominator. So I want this denominator to be 8, and since it's the whole number 1, the numerator has to be 8 too. So that's the trick. Whatever this denominator is, make this numerator and denominator the same. But don't do that until you cross out the whole number and make it 1 less. Because this 8/8 is 1 whole. And where am I getting that 1 whole from? The 7. That's why it became a 6. So now 8/8 minus 5/8, subtract the numerators. 8 minus 5 is 3. Keep the denominator the same. That's 3/8. 6 minus 2 is 4. Is it proper? Yes. Is it simplified? Yes. By the way, the last 2 problems were the only 2 that were already proper and simplified. But they were also the only 2 that you had to know how to borrow in. So again, the next quiz you take will replace the grades on the first 4 quizzes if you get 100 on it. So you really want to get 100 on quiz 5. I recommend you look at this video, and if you have to look at it twice, do that. Go back and look at any of the videos that I've assigned to you that deal with adding and subtracting mixed numerals. And then you'll be ready to take that quiz. And if you get 100 on quiz 5, then you get 100 average. By the way, if you don't get 100 on quiz 5, I add the 5 quiz grades together and divide by 5 to give you your average. So good luck. I hope you understand what you did wrong, and I hope on quiz 5 you don't do anything wrong and you get 100.